Well, I'm really pleased to have, really a diverse bunch of entrepreneurs here from Alivia, that creates radiant clothing by touch expressions with folks who are with challenging disabilities, and Avrio, who's redefining the sustainable shoe, and Commonwealth Packaging, that is really creating really kick-ass creative packaging that really sells products. And also, last but not least, I really, as I said earlier, Jake Karls, he owns a company called Midday Squares, CEO, and he owns the first functional chocolate bar. Everything a chocolate bar isn't, he says. Everything a protein bar I wish it was. So we have the first group here, and we'll get started. But before we get started, I wanted to kind of ask all of you individually, what was the defining moment that you decided to be wired as an entrepreneur? And more importantly, what was the defining moment that inspired you to create the brands that you've created today, and you're so dedicated, and you have a vision of milestones to really drive brand performance and revenue growth through the roof? So why don't we start with John and go with Sydney, and Andrew, and then Jake and Jovana, and we'll get through it all. We'll be good.
Hi, so Avrio Footwear. I spent several years in the footwear industry talking about sustainability, talking about introducing biomass into the materials, increasing the recycled materials, and really trying to press upon all of these brands. And sometimes they would tell me, well, we'll look at that in 2026, or we're going to look at that later, or there's not really a market because it's expensive. So what inspired me is I finally got to the point and said, do I want to continue to work and be these executives with these companies? And what legacy is being left? What sort of footprint would I leave behind? Back to the pun on shoes. I'd want to make a difference. So we started Avrio, and Avrio is a Greek word which means tomorrow or the future. So we really thought about, myself and my team said, how can we impact the future with what we've learned in the material science end of it, and then incorporate that into a product? And footwear being 20 billion pairs a year sold, that was it. And I read this article that said, why should you start a footwear company? And the first sentence was, absolutely you should.
Right.
So some writer out there told me to start a footwear company. And Avrio Shoe was born. And what we did is we counted on inclusivity. We wanted to do collaboration, cooperation, transparency, and eco-innovation. So our goal is to create an incredible product that's not just sustainable on the product itself, but actually throughout the process, the community, the process of manufacturing, sourcing, and packaging.
Great.
That's probably not a bad way to push it off to Sydney.
Great segue.
Andrew, yeah, I'm curious to know also, as far as entrepreneurs, what was the defining moment for you guys to get involved in the fashion business or packaging? But why packaging versus anything else?
Great question. So we can't take credit for founding the company. We are actually the third generation of Commonwealth Packaging. It was started by my grandparents in the early 50s. So while I can't speak for them, I do know their story. And the summary of it is basically they were looking, my grandfather went out and realized he wanted to start a business. And it was 1953 or something like that. My dad can correct me on that. And he realized that he needed to start a business and take care of his family. And he started to ask around and what opportunities are there? He was living in central Pennsylvania at the time. Someone said dentistry supplies. Someone said a bowling alley. And then he had a connection in the packaging world. So
you saying bowling alley was a second runner-up to the venture you're involved in.
Right. We're at the Fashinnovation right now, but we could have been at like the bowling alley conference of USA. But long story short, they started out selling to mom and pop shops in central Pennsylvania, paper bags that he would stamp on. And as the company has evolved over the years, especially in the last 2 decades, we've really seen brands and retailers invest in their packaging to tell the story of their brand, right? It's not just a vessel that you leave a store with or a package that you get in the mail. It's so much more than that. It's about the brand ethos. So that's really where we are today. And we joined both in the last couple of years as we saw that marketing started to play so much more of start to have so much more of a role in the packaging experience, as you see with social media and unboxing. So that's kind of we can't take credit for founding the company, but we can take credit for propelling it into the next generation.
Great. Okay, now I want to talk with Jovana. It's really interesting. Your company is really almost like a Bombas company, almost like a Warby Parker. You really have focused in on creating a brand that's purpose-driven. and you've really created these radiant, designs. And you know better than I do, utilizing talent with people who are physically challenged in a variety of ways. And so can you share with us, what was the defining moment for you to go in this part of fashion versus just, designing shoes or sweatshirts or working for Nike, or whatever it might be? What was it? What was the defining moment in your gut, in your heart, that said, I want to really create a brand of really something different, made by people who deserve attention and respect and love? I'm curious to know the whole background on how your company came about.
Right. So my whole career, I've been a designer for the past 10 plus years. I've been a designer in the fashion industry, primarily designing prints and embroidery for multiple brands, from luxury to contemporary. And my whole life, I've always felt a calling to help other people, to work with individuals with disabilities. My mom was a special ed teacher, so I don't know if it's like something in my DNA, but I've always just had this calling. And throughout my career, I felt something was missing. And about 2.5 years ago, I began volunteering at an organization in Chinatown called the Center of All Abilities. And I began leading an art therapy program for them on the weekends, just as a volunteer. I'm not a trained art therapist, although I would love to be eventually. And anyways, I saw this incredible talent that these individuals had. And the center caters to all different type of neurological disabilities and disorders. So autism, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy. And the art, I saw this world of incredible talent and such meaningful artwork, because a lot of them, they can't communicate the same way you and I can. So for them, art was a way for them to express their personalities, to, have a sense of purpose and joy. And I just, as a print designer for the past 10 years, I saw this artwork and I was like, oh my gosh, this needs to be on a dress. This needs to be on a scarf. And my mind just immediately went there. And I realized my gifts and my talents, I've been using, to help other brands. And what if I took that and I married it with my passion of helping individuals with disabilities and promote inclusivity and promote awareness, that these individuals are just like any of us. They may not communicate the same way, but they have incredible talents and incredible abilities, and they need a platform to express themselves and to have that opportunity to show their gifts. So I kind of thought, let's marry the two. I brought the idea to my husband, who is much more business minded than me. And we kind of, that's how it all started.
Okay, so now we're going to go from that to Jake. Again, what was it that inspired you to get involved in this product category and this company? And also, I'd like to know, what's the origin of Midday Squares? Yeah. And if you didn't brand it Midday Squares, I'm just curious to know, what was the second runner-up name that you're considering for the brand of chocolate bars, and the first functional chocolate bar? So share with us briefly about that story.
Thanks. So our story is interesting. First of all, my entrepreneurship journey started when I realized I really wasn't good at college. I started getting 59s and 62s in actuarial science, and I tried to work in the investment world, completely failed, and just started my own gym at the time, outdoors, and trained people in Canada because it's cold here and people enjoy the summer, and started creating this whole entrepreneurship of realizing that I had this set to build a business, and I really had a passion for it. So in August 2018, we launched Midday Squares. Midday Squares is the first functional chocolate bar company, and I'll get into that in a second. But
why do you bring it Midday Squares?
So Midday Squares, it's a midday snack. So basically what we designed it for was when people have that chocolate craving at 1, 2, 3 o'clock and get that energy slum and need something to pick them back up, but still enjoy the indulgence of chocolate. And it was important to design something that would get them from that 2 o'clock till that 6 o'clock right before their dinner. And that's why we called it literally Midday Squares, kind of like what 5 Hour Energy did for, you know exactly what you're getting when you have it,
Right.
Yeah, so we started in 2018, August, and family business, my sister, my brother-in-law, and I. And the whole idea was to take a chocolate bar, marry it with a protein bar, but eliminate all the artificial stuff that's in, protein bars, the chemicals, the preservatives, the additives, all that stuff, but keep it as a real chocolate bar. And it's refrigerated, it's fresh, it stays in the fridge, and it's been a crazy journey. What we kind of wanted to do was take the Nike model of building kind of like that media side of the company, but alongside the food. And a lot of food companies forget about the storytelling and the aspect of, building that brand side rather than just focusing on product. And that's something that we've specialized in and focused a lot of our attention on to kind of create at the same time, simultaneously, a media brand and a food development product. We're a manufacturer, so it's quite fun to do both at the same time.
Well, it's all of us on the panel here. A brand is probably the single most important financial asset you own. And I look at the landscape. Too many brands don't have a focus. Right. Too many brands are copying the brands. I call it a sea of sameness. They're stuck in the muck there. The real big difference, even though my podcast at CBS is called Name Brands, the big difference between a name brand and a brand name. A name brand is somebody wants, your go-to brand, and a brand name is a name you just file as an LLC. And too many companies really lack the emotional connection to really resonate with a consumer or why to buy. So I'd like to ask you, because I'm very, very hot in this with my clients, my programs. I always ask people, what are you really selling? I know what you all make. Right. Like Harley Davidson makes motorcycles. They're selling freedom. And Disney's selling happiness, right? And FedEx Express selling overnight. They weren't the first, but they own overnight. You know what I'm saying? So it's really important. I'm trying to understand. Life is good. They sell optimism and good vibes. So we don't make T-shirts, but they're not in the T-shirt business. So Jovana, if I ask you, what are you? I'm going to go around the horn here. What are you really selling that resonates? That's authentic. That people it resonates with them, and versus because you're not selling clothing. You're selling something much more grand. We all are in this panel. So I want to just kind of go around and do a deep dive, deep soul, feeling of what are you truly selling that's really emotionally connecting and rationally justifying.
Right. So yes, like you said, we're not just selling clothing. Our whole vision and our whole mission is to really connect the consumer with the social impact that they're making and share these human stories. So we're selling human stories and we're selling human connection with individuals with disabilities, and we're bringing awareness to talents and abilities and trying to break these barriers that people have.
But if you had to tell me in one word, a couple words, what are you selling? Like Disney's freedom and Holly's freedom and Disney's happiness and Boston Children's Hospital, so they're selling hope. But they're selling hope. What in 1 or 2 words? What are you really selling?
Human connection, I think.
Okay. And Andrew, I know you're in packaging, but you're not selling packaging. What do when you do Kenneth Cole and other companies, what are you really selling that's a wow factor to the buyer?
Not to take the easy way out, but we're selling storytelling. As you know, we're the B2B people here on this panel, right? We're not going directly to a consumer, but we're facilitating going directly to a consumer. So the story we help our customers tell has to be authentic to their brand. If someone is saying they're sustainable, but their product is showing up in a plastic poly bag, that's not a congruent story. You're going to confuse your customer.
You're selling physical storytelling, right?
That's
You're the storytelling. And John, what are you selling? I know talking about it's beautiful, and I know the story about all the environmental things that go in. But, you're not selling footwear. What are you really selling?
No, we are people often say, they told me at the beginning, you're really a science company that happens to make shoes, right? We're more than that. We're more than just a footwear company. And very early on, the icon leader in the industry asked me, are you selling a shoe? Are you creating a shoe? Or are you creating a brand? And I sat back going, wow, I'm so focused on the shoe and the first implementation, the first prototyping, that I forgot about the brand. And I said, I'm going to focus on the brand. And literally ever since that time, everything we've done has been the brand. And what we're selling is we want to elicit that emotion where the consumer, the buyer of and Avrio shoes has made a decision for a better future. So we want the consumer to be the hero. They're the ones that have cleaned the air, cleaned the water, improved the environment, and really make tomorrow beautiful. Not us. We simply showed them a path to walk upon and gave them an opportunity and an option to buy a shoe that will make a difference. And we call those micro decisions. People will say, well, I'm not a sustainable person. All right, if you walk down the road and you see a piece of trash, you pick it up and throw it in the trash can. All right, that was a micro decision and a sustainable decision. So I don't want to say that we're selling hope, but we're selling the future, and we're selling the consumer the ability to be impactful.
Great. And Jake, and again, you're not selling chocolate. What are you really selling that emotionally connects, that you feel there's no other brand in your space that anybody can compare, that you have either you've created a category or you dominate a category?
Yeah, so we basically say all the time that people come for the chocolate but stay for the story. So we're selling transparency, and it sounds so weird to say that, transparency can be sold, but the whole idea of the real journey of entrepreneurship, the good, the bad, the ugly, and showing everything, the fact that we're nowhere near a bureaucracy, and that the way we do things is so real to who we are, and we share everything, whether that's therapy sessions, whether that's the idea of failures from machines, the costs. Our customers and our community are with us the whole way through, and forget about the chocolate. They're with us on every aspect of the business, whether that be meetings, whether that be failures or successes. And I think that's
in two words. I asked you 2 words. What are you really selling? What are those 2 words?
Transparency and good vibes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now,
transparency, Larry. So what he's saying, exactly. If more companies would do that, look at what Jovana's doing. Jake, my hat is off to you. Nobody wants to be transparent. Everybody's going to promote, look how great I am. Look how great we are. Look what we're doing. You need to show the entire package. You need to tell everybody, hey, we have these struggles, but we're going to address it, and we're going to fix it. But Jake?
Right. So the thing is, and I'm really happy because you're all integrating the same kind of passion and thought process. And I want to ask you another question. My next question is, no, it's all about, in college, everyone teaches about consumer behavior, consumer needs. And in my opinion, it's not about consumer needs, it's about wants. I mean, nobody needs a Rolex watch for $5,000 to $10,000. They want it. I mean, I just bought a tag watch last week. My tag watch was, if it says 3 o'clock right now, the Rolex says 3, or a time is supposed to say 3. So it's not about time, okay? So nobody, and I love Jovana and Maisel. Nobody needs Fashinnovation. But we want fashion innovation. So it's about wants, not needs, right? So what would you say, Jovana, what is the reason people want, I mean, no one needs your brand, they really don't. But what is it so special, what's so compelling that people want it, and why you're seeing such success? Because you're one brand, you're an aspirational brand, not a need brand.
Right, I think our customers come to us for the human story, and for that connection and social impact aspect of the company. And then they stay because they love the prints and they love the color and they love the styles. But I think that they resonate with the story, and they resonate with this idea of lifting others up and lifting, giving a voice to the unheard. Right. And that's kind of, as of now, that's what our customers are coming to us for.
Now, Cindy and Andrew, Jack Welch, who we know is the CEO of the century, he always said to me, if you don't change the game, Larry, the game will change you. I want to know, what are you doing in the packaging world as it applies to fashion that you're being a game changer? And I always tell people, if you're batting 1,000, you're losing. If you're batting 1,000, you're complacent, you're stuck in the muck, you're doing things 20 years ago. So what are you doing that you feel is bold and disruptive? Because there's no substitute for innovation today. And we live in such a ever-changing, rapidly evolving world, of competitive world. I'm saying all of us in this room here, we're all in market segments that are very, very crowded. So what do you do that's bold and disruptive that gives you an edge upon other brands?
Yeah. I mean, I think that anyone can go out and buy a paper bag or a PP non-woven reusable bag, right? But we are partnering with manufacturers around the globe that are at the forefront of technological innovation in creating packaging. So completely home compostable poly bags, right? Like we all need to be moving towards that. Think about how many poly bags the fashion industry uses every single day, right? Like we are partnering with our brands to solve that problem, making tote bags that are made out of recycled plastic, like the Rothy's model, right? And John, what you're doing, like that technology exists, but first of all, there are not a ton of packaging partners in the world, but they don't have the access like we do after 60 years being in business. So to your point earlier, Jake, about transparency, not only we are communicating transparency, personal in our packaging, but also what the brands are doing, but we're also at the forefront of technological innovations to make packaging a more sustainable part of the industry.
And it's our job to make that easy for
What, Andrew?
I was going to say it's our job to make that easy for our customers.
Right.
As everyone knows, the expense model in retail and in fashion is contracting all the time. So a lot of particularly startup companies don't have the budget, frankly, for a packaging expert on their team. And that's where our job is to build a trusting partnership to bring that innovation in. Let us go out and figure that out to solve your problem for you and make it as easy as possible so you can focus on your product.
Sydney mentioned about partnerships, John, and I always tell people you can either grow your business organically or you got to look at co-marketing or the partnerships.
Right.
And you're growing your business, John. Are you growing it organically? Or are you searching out other partners to co-market to drive growth in more in totality versus trying to do it solo?
Right. No, it is actually in the totality thing. So I'll give you an example. We're promoting the change makers. So in the travels that I've done throughout the world in various manufacturing, various products, there are always people that are on the side, and there's some packaging people I'm going to talk to Sydney and Andrew about later on that have some packaging ideas. But again, we spoke before this that we really, I think we can help one another here. But we are really looking at identifying the change makers, these startups with these brilliant ideas that don't have a venue, don't have a voice, and are not really sure how to do it. Not that Avrio is the expert, but Avrio is inclusive. I'm working with college students and universities as well, so they understand that they're going to be able to run the future. So what do we want to help them do and guide them? And it is truly, truly on a platform. All of us today, it is, I think everybody, humanity understands where we are. Right. And individually, we're not going to be able to impact the future. I'm not going to get it with 1 million pairs of shoes or 100 pairs of shoes. Right. But if I can introduce people to Jovana, and I can introduce people to the Midday Chocolate Bar, which I'm going to buy a case, actually. But
I agree. Oh, no. Jake is going to send us all a case. We're not buying anything.
All right, Jake, we're going to put it all on Larry's credit card, all right? And then you can send us all a case. Because Jake needs money. He needs a startup. It's about a revenue here. I love the idea. And I also, on the transparency real quick, what Jovana does on her tags to tell who the artist is and where it came from and what's going on. People don't understand how many humans actually touch our products that are made around the globe. You would not believe how many hands touch every pair of shoes before it gets to us. And Jovana said it best earlier. We're impacting these human lives and their families, and we're giving the ability to earn a wage and earn an income. And that is important. And this is why Avrio also says what we buy it truly does define us if you think about it on that totality level that you referenced earlier, Larry.
Yeah. But it's interesting. It's like, millennials represent 52% of our population, and millennials are not price sensitive. However, we all buy brands that resonate with our own value system. Mm-hmm. And the more all of you create a meaningful conversation, I don't care if it's Jovana's dresses, I don't know how much it costs, $100 or $200, whatever it is. If we feel good about it, it's like Paul Newman's company, Newman's Own. They donated $800 million to children's charities. Is he the best salad dressing, popcorn, pizza? I don't know, but I buy a lot of Newman's Own because I know that 10% of his money is going to help kids with sadly challenged with cancer. So is it worth more than Barolla's $189, $249? Maybe not really, but if you feel there's a value, if you can relate to it, that's why.
It's an emotion, Larry. You had elicited an emotion to make that choice.
Exactly. Jake, I want to ask you a question because you're really in a very crowded field, as many of you are also, but chocolates, I'm not saying candy, but food ever. I want to know from you, Jake, what kind of trends are there in your space? Do you feel there are fundamental changes? And do you think the trends represent to you opportunities or threats?
So yeah, so 100%. So there are huge trends in plant-based products, and we are under a plant-based product. That's a huge trend in the space. And fresh snacking, this is where our consumer base is going, is into eating foods that don't contain preservatives and additives. We're caring more and more about our immune system and our nutrition. So that's something really special. But most importantly, I think our most dominant factor in this space that allows us to separate from the crowded food space that it is telling the story of entrepreneurship and really sharing that journey uncensored. Like, I'm talking about nothing's off the table. Therapy sessions are on the table. Everything is shown, because at the end of the day, you have nothing else to show other than your product, but you got to give people a little more than that. You got to give them the opportunity to be part of something special. And what we do every day is to focus on humanizing the brand as much as possible, making the faces on the brand out there in the face of the customer, not just the packaging. Packaging is great and all. And Commonwealth, you guys are doing a great job, but you got to also show the people behind the business and what they're doing and who they are. Because again, humans interact with humans. And in today's world, it is right now, especially, humans are craving human interaction more than ever.
Exactly.
So we share that, and that's allowing us to get ahead of the bigger guys, the conglomerates that don't do that. Like the big guys paying big dollars on marketing. We're doing no dollar pay on marketing, but sharing the stories of real humans.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, it's funny. When I did a program with Jovana back in June, I think it was, one of my solo guests was Lizanne Kinlaw, CEO of Talbot's. And I said, Lizanne, I know her really well. I said, Lizanne, what's really fashion? What's today's trends in fashion? And she says, Larry, anything above the belly button. Let's face it. All of them. And John, your product's great, but I have not worn shoes since February. I'm right now in Boston in my home office. I go back to Cape Cod pretty soon. I'm either in sneakers or flip flops, and that's it. But when's the last time I wore a pair of loafers? I don't remember. You know what I'm saying? I want to ask you guys.
We're not selling just shoes though, Larry. When you put up a pair of shoes, you're going to go, I just cleaned the water. I just took 243 liters of water and filtered it. I took algae out. I cleaned the air. I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, you just talked about Newman's Own. Paul Newman put out there and elicited the feeling.
And John, I have all your information right here. All the good things you're doing, John. All right.
Yeah. Transparent right there, Jovana. See the transparency? That's we also tell you exactly which companies we use to derive and generate that. We introduce that to all the brands.
It can be 10 more minutes, and I want to ask some personal questions at the end. I want to go around the horn one more time, okay? Jovana, describe for us one of your most recent product launches, okay? One of your and why was it significant? Why did you create this new launch of a new product?
So we're actually a baby company. We just launched April 1st. So that's our first collection. Yeah. Right in the middle of COVID. But it
was spirit. Don't get down.
Yes. No, it was actually a huge blessing because April is Autism Awareness Month, and we had always planned on launching April 1st to really showcase the stories and highlight our artists. So instead of really promoting product and promoting sales, we pivoted to promoting the artists themselves and their stories. And I think that, it's given us this great opportunity to create a network and sort of like a community of people that have the same values and the same kind of mission-driven mindset. So it's been great. And we actually just had a photo shoot last month with a model and activist who has Down syndrome. So we're working on building. Really cool. Yeah, we're working on being fully inclusive in every aspect.
That's great. Sydney and Andrew, what was your most recent product launch, and why was it so significant?
What we do is so custom that I can't say that we've had a significant singular product launch, because while we are trying to kind of push in one direction and learn more about what's available to our customers.
I'm not trying to make an ad, you're just fine, but for one of your clients, can you share with us one launch of a new packaging design and whether it's and why it was so successful?
Yeah, I think so. We had one for a pretty major retailer that basically the whole message was sustainability, and it was not just what are the materials and kind of behind the scenes, how is this important, but they chose to brand that to communicate to their customers too. So there's actually text on the bag that talks about the materials that were used and how sustainable they are and all those kinds of things. And that was significant because, packaging has often kind of been seen as a cost center, not really as part of the marketing ecosystem. Right. And now this was such a great step, or more subtly maybe, but now this was kind of an important first step out there of saying we made really conscious decisions about the way we went about designing our packaging so that we could have an impact that we know is important to us as a company and to our customers. And I think that was really interesting, and it's something we've been able, it's almost like when the first person kind of dips their toe in the water, everyone else chases them in.
Right.
That was an interesting approach where now people can say, hey, this is okay for me to be really blatant about what I'm doing from a packaging perspective to communicate our values as a company.
Right. John, I know we have limited time, but you tell us also what's the most recent launch you've created and why?
Okay, so we have 3 additional models behind the one that we're going with right now. But one of the things I'm very proud of is back to that collaboration. We're sending out, I'm going to actually send out a personal note to all the people that backed us initially on this first model. And it's on recycled paper using the algae ink. And we're sending everybody, and now they're going to know because they weren't going to know until now, but we're sending them one of the reusable stainless steel straws with a case, with an Avrio case. And everybody that backed our shoe is going to get one with that note. I'm very, very pleased to be using living ink on the algae ink on our document. So
great. And Jake, what was your most recent either flavor or chocolate product you launched recently?
Yeah, we recently had a third flavor called Bust the Peanut. It's like a chocolate peanut butter, very similar to a product out there that we all had nostalgically as kids. It was very successful. It cost us $8,000 to launch the whole thing, and it ended up bringing in, I think, 120,000 bars in the last month and a half. Wow. So that was something.
How old is our company, Jake? How old is it?
Our company's 2 years old as of 2 weeks ago.
Wow, that's great.
Congratulations.
Okay,
Jake, I wish that we knew you during quarantine when we were home with our 2-year-old and at 3 p.m. every day.
Now you know me. We're good. We'll still get you going.
I'm in the Cape in the last 4 months in Falmouth, and besides going to the beach, I mean, I was a Pilates person. I was doing Zumba and everything, and I just kind of went cold turkey. And so like all you do is work, Zoom, eat, go to the beach, eat.
That sounds terrible.
What's that?
It sounds like a terrible life.
No. How much eating? I mean, go to the beach and chips and this, and I mean, we just keep eating and eating. It's like insane. But anyhow, this is my lightning round. We have 5 minutes, which is great. These are quick answers, no long dissertations, right? I don't care how crazy the answer is, right? We're gonna start with Jovana, then go to Sydney, then John, then Jake. Okay. Okay. Here's my first thing. America runs on Duncan. Jovana, what do you run on?
Social impact.
Social impact. Sydney and Andrew, what do you run on?
Bags and boxes.
Okay. John, what do you run on?
Most eco-friendly shoe on the planet.
Jake?
Wacky people.
I run on pizza. Okay. Okay. Share with me one word that describes you best. Jake?
Energy.
John?
That describes what? I cut that part out.
One word that describes you best.
Focused.
Focus? Great. Sydney and Andrew, what word describes you guys best?
Married.
Good. Stay married. Great. Jovana?
Speaking for both of us.
Loving.
Loving. Great. And that's, I'm sure, personal and your business because you have a love for things you do. That's great. Okay. Tell us one thing, and this is correct. Tell us one thing we don't know about you, Jake. One thing we don't know about you.
I'm a goalie.
You're a goalie? You play, okay?
Ice hockey.
Oh, yeah. John, tell us one thing we don't know about you.
Oh, my gosh. I enjoy doing puzzles with my wife.
Okay.
Actually, ones that you put in the jigsaw.
Right. I have no patience for that. Sydney and Andrew?
I'm a long-suffering Philadelphia sports fan.
Yeah. Go Boston Red Sox. Go Patriots.
Yeah.
Please like me. Please like me. Jovana?
I'm a huge true crime junkie and a web sleuth.
Really?
Wow.
Yep.
People don't know. People think one thing about people don't know about me. I can go to the beach for 8 hours, really, and not say a word. My kids think I'm grumpy. I'm there with my headphones. That to me is my out. I can easily stay 8 hours on the beach. People who know me don't think I can stay 1 hour at the beach, and I can do it all day long. What advice do you wish you received when you first started your venture, going back in time right now? What one piece of advice?
Getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Meaning really moving outside your comfort level and pushing the envelope and be edgy, right?
But yeah, always taking that risk and apologizing later.
Yeah. Well, you know the old saying, it's better to ask for permission than ask for permission than beg for forgiveness.
After, yeah.
John, what's something
that I underestimated? What was it?
What was my question to you?
What was the piece of advice?
Yeah, so the advice would be, somebody should have advised me that social media is not a snap. It is a complex set of a network that you need to clearly understand.
It is.
That advice didn't came. That was a reality check for me.
A friend of mine who's an entrepreneur in Boston, very successful, he says, I cannot go to my investors telling them we have 140,000 likes, because likes don't translate into revenue, period.
Correct.
Sydney, Andrew, tell something we don't know about you guys.
So, something that you don't know about us? We already did that. You mean
the advice.
What's the advice? What's the phrase? Efficiently, something about working efficiently. I can't think of the phrase right now, but so much of what we do it's in all hours of the day job, right? We're communicating with manufacturers all over the world. Mm-hmm. So it's okay to take some time in the middle of the day to take a break, because you're up at 5:30 communicating with Mill. So that's okay.
Okay. We have 2 minutes to go. Okay. This is a really little fast one, right? If you had the opportunity to have dinner with an iconic entrepreneur in any industry, not even fashion, or maybe fashion is fine, all right? That you don't know, you never met yet, who would you love to have dinner with?
Wow.
I'll tell you mine. You know who mine is? Larry David.
Love him. Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Dinner with him would be amazing. So what entrepreneur out there that you've never met would you love to have a coffee or dinner with?
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk? John?
Phil Knight.
Phil Knight. Wow. Sydney and Andrew?
I might have to punt a little bit and say celebrity and say someone like Dave Grohl.
That's fine. That's great. And Sydney?
Does Michelle Obama count?
Yes, he does. A quick story. A friend of mine was kayaking in the vineyard last week, and his kayak went close to the shore, and someone helped push him off. And you know who it was? Michelle Obama, right there in Edgartown.
Now I know she was in the vineyard.
Yeah, they bought a $14 million home there. Her and her husband were sitting there with 10 Secret Service under umbrellas as they were relaxing on the beach in Edgartown. And Jovana, who would be the one person you'd love to have coffee and meet with that would be amazing? Who would it be?
Tommy Hilfiger.